Santa Claus ruined my life. But then, what do you expect? You know the old saw that claims he's a right jolly old elf. What a crock. The man's a right creepy old fuck's what he is, watching children when they sleep. Just what does he write on that list of his anyway? I first saw Santa, the original creepy old man, when I was 8 years old. I heard the bells and made it to the window just in time to see tiny reindeer pulling Santa and his sleigh across the sky. That night was like all the songs and stories. Later on, teachers and counselors would praise my active little imagination, but I didn't exactly add anything original to the Santa mythos. The reindeer landed on the roof with a clatter, and moments later, Santa came sliding down the chimney with a huge bag full of toys. He ate the cookies and drank the milk my brother and I left out. He pulled presents from his bag and placed them under the tree and stuffed candy into the stockings hung by the chimney with care and duct tape. It went pretty much according to script. He spotted me hiding in the darkened kitchen and favored me with a conspiratorial wink, just like in the stories and songs and poems. It was all traditional, old school. He even laid a finger by the side of his nose before magically swooshing up the chimney. And yes, I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight, blah, 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 but you know the rest. It didn't matter that the whole scenario was as stereotypical as a soccer mom driving a minivan. Every magical moment seared itself into my impressionable young brain, and that's all I could talk about when Christmas morning came. You slept through it all, I told Mom, Dad, and my little brother Mike. I can't believe you slept through it. Everybody loved my story, banal as it was, the first time through. By the third rendition, it was wearing thin, but that didn't even slow me down. Mike tried to embellish the story. Well, wouldn't it be cool if Santa's sleigh had rocket launchers? Oh man, I bet it does. I bet. No, it doesn't have rocket launchers, I screamed at him. It all happened just as I've been telling you.
That will be enough of that,
my dad said. But he doesn't have rocket launchers. He's Santa.
Your brother has just as much right to make up stories as you do.
I'm not making this up, I screamed. He's making things up. I'm telling the fucking truth. Well, that outburst got me a good, solid beating because my dad was every bit as old school as Santa. I shut up for a time, but by supper I was back to recounting the whole event, over and over, lest I forget the tiniest detail. By bedtime, my parents were all but pleading with me to give it a rest. Once in bed, I wrote down everything that happened, using a different colored crayon for each event. Green, I heard bells and got out of bed. Brown, I saw a bunch of reindeer in the sky pulling a sleigh. They were flying. Red, I saw Santa. And so on. I drew pictures of Santa and his reindeer. For weeks afterwards, that's all I'd draw. My parents took me to talk with a nice lady. This nice lady told me I was very creative, which was a really good thing, but that I needed to learn to tell the difference between fantasy and reality. She asked if I understood what she was saying. I said, sure. Then shut up about Santa. Instead, I wrote Christmas plays and Christmas stories and Christmas poems, no matter what the season. None of it was imaginative. Santa didn't have rocket launchers on his sleigh. I wrote the same old story over and over again, more historian than artist. When the holiday season drew near again, I read over my crayon-written notes that Christmas Eve and took to stalking department store Santas.
He should be past this phase,
I overheard my father say, and my mother.
Well, let's just give him a little more time.
By the Christmas of my 10th year, I kept my Santa obsession to myself, and could just about hear my parents' collective sigh of relief. The following year, they were laughing about the whole incident. When I was 12, my father got a good job in the Eon Center, and my parents decided to move into the city. Oh, I loved Chicago. My parents took Mike and me to look at condos, and that's when I lost it. Something was bothering me about all the potential new homes we were touring, but I couldn't quite tell what it was. And then it hit. My heart raced so fast it felt like a sparrow fluttering inside my chest, and I couldn't breathe. My parents and brother hovered over me, asking what was wrong and what was going on, but it was like I was on the bottom of a lake while they were at the surface. And later, a doctor would call this an anxiety attack and prescribe, these nice little pills to calm me down.
Oh, yeah.
But at the time, all I could think of and all I could say was, "There's no chimney. We can't move here. There's no chimney." But we did move into a condo, and the years marched on. From time to time, I doubted my sanity, but all in all grew up fairly normal. I cultivated an obsession with folklore, and that's what I studied in college. My dad wanted to know what I was going to do with a bullshit degree.
Bullshit!
As I said before, he's an old-school kind of guy. Well, I did what everybody with a bullshit degree does. I became a teacher. I landed a gig as a student teacher and hid behind an academic front. But deep down, I still knew that long ago Christmas Eve was real. I even published a scholarly paper about the Santa Claus myth, comparing the ritual consumption of milk and cookies to the Eucharist. Well, originality was never my strong suit. And I married a lovely lady named Piper and moved on to full-time teaching. When Piper suggested we pool our resources to buy a home, I said, "A house, not a condominium. I want a house with a chimney. It has to have a chimney." "Dear," she said, "are you okay? You're sweating." I'm just a little bit warm." Well, we got a house with a chimney, and soon fell into comfortable routines. Unfortunately, my comfortable routine included a lot of drinking. On our 5th Christmas Eve together, Piper went to bed early, and I sat in front of the chimney, waiting. I don't know how I knew this would be the Christmas I'd see Santa again. I just did. I sat in my big, comfy reading, drinking chair when midnight rolled around. I hardly even jumped when he landed with a solid whoop in the fireplace. I raised my bourbon as he brushed ashes from his red suit. He looked older and fatter. Not just plump, but fat. And he moved slower. He trudged in and gave me a sad smile. Not very jolly. "There's no snow this year," he grumbled. "Global warming," I said. "So you grown up to be one of them liberal fruitcakes, huh?" He looked at the milk and cookies I'd left out. Take," he said. "Eat. This is my body." He held up a Santa-shaped cookie. You read my paper." I've been keeping tabs." Alas, no more milk and cookies for me. Got me the diabetes now." He pronounced it. Diabetes. Just like Wilford Brimley. "Blood sugar's so fucking high, hummingbirds try to feed off of me. But if you could spare something stronger than milk." I poured him 2 fingers of bourbon, 'cause that's wonderful medicine for the diabetes. He downed it and flopped into the chair across from me. We looked at each other. Then I started shaking, and moments later the tears came. God, after all this time, I knew that night was real. I tried to tell myself otherwise, but it was real. Pull yourself together, crybaby. Oh, well, it screwed with me, seeing you when I was a kid. It screwed with my head.
Yeah, I know. But it wasn't my decision.
I stared at him. He opened his big bag and rummaged around inside.
Oh, God, look at all this garbage. Electronic stuff. I don't even know what half this shit is. You ought to see my workshop these days. Elves working a bunch of injection mold machines. Circuit boards everywhere. One whole department does nothing but order crap online.
He shook his head. What do you mean? It wasn't your decision.
Oh, no, it's all up to Father Christmas. He decides who'll be awake to see me. A certain number of people have to see me to keep the belief alive, to keep the Santa myth alive. When you see me, you tell others. Then they hear the conviction in your voice and they believe, even if it's only for a moment. Oh, that's all it takes.
But that's not possible. One man visiting every kid in a single night? The logistics?
Ah!
Santa yowled as if I jabbed him with a red-hot poker.
Oh, my staunchest believer doubting me. Oh, that hurts.
Well, if I'm your staunchest believer, then you're screwed, my friend.
You got that right. I am in deep doo-doo.
I mean, how can that be? You leave presents. Surely adults must notice the extra packages.
Yeah, they notice, but their minds fill in the blanks. They must have picked them up sometime during all the holiday hustle and bustle. See, self-deception is easy when it's flattering.
Well, what about the time factor? Millions of households, most of them without even a chimney.
I don't need a chimney.
Well, it takes, but you do need time. It takes at least a few hours to fly around the world, not to mention all that other stuff. You fill in stockings and all. Plus, how the hell can you fit all those presents in a single sleigh? Santa sighed.
The laws of time and space stretch out for me. It's an impossibly long night. Christmas Eve is, and it's taken its toll. Despite everything you said, I've got the job done for these long years, have I not?
I finished my bourbon and poured another. This meeting should have been healing old wounds. It should have been giving me that closure that my shrink likes to prattle on about. Instead, it was pissing me off. So I sat and drank and glared at Santa without saying anything.
This'll be my last night of delivering presents.
I grunted and glared.
I retire after tonight. There's not much belief go keep this jolly old elf going. It's time to hand the reins over to some new god. A younger, hipper god, I guess.
So you're not a god?
Well, I guess. A sad, worn-out old god on his last leg. Oof, maybe literally. Doc says I might lose a foot if my diabetes gets any worse. So, what do you say? Can I get a refill before I head out?
I got a pretty good drunk going that night after the not-so-jolly old elf left. I awoke on the living room floor, feeling horrid. And yet, a burden had been lifted. That whole sense of closure wasn't such bullshit after all. I tried to get up, but the room spun, so I lay back down. It occurred to me that this was a familiar situation. But that was okay. I was free now. Free to put the whole Santa obsession behind me and move on with my life. A pair of Santa slippers appeared before me. Piper's voice reverberated like thunder against my aching head.
I want a divorce.
Well, Piper got the house, and I moved into a cramped little apartment on the near north side. I was delighted with the place because it had the single feature I insisted upon, the total absence of a chimney. When Christmas rolled around again, I was awake and sober in my living room. My Santa sense alerted me that I'd get another visitation. I was determined to be a bad host. No milk, no cookies, no booze. I didn't even have a place for Santa to sit. I occupied the only chair in the whole damn place. And right at midnight, a total stranger materialized before me. He looked nothing like the Santa I knew, but was tall and lanky, all sharp angles.
Yes!
This stranger shouted. He drew an imaginary square with one finger, and a luminescent box appeared. He pulled forth a crapload of electronic gadgets, each adorned with a bow and ribbon. He sang,
"Oh, I got video games and camera phones and so much more."
He tossed this junk over his shoulder piece by piece, and each item sailed about in complicated patterns before arranging itself in a star pattern on the floor.
"I am the new Santa Claus."
The lunatic danced and cartwheeled about my studio apartment. Miniature fireworks and light shows flashed as he cavorted through his routine. Eventually, he finished, landing directly in front of me with a ta-da flourish and a big shit-eaten grin plastered across his smarmy face.
"Hi."
I said, "Get the fuck out of my home." But nothing. Out. Now.
"But I need you. Christmas needs you. You're one of the few left who can still see Santa. One of the last true believers. And look what I've brought you."
He grabbed up a video game. Warzone. Its main selling point? It was just like being in combat. My stomach clenched. I ignored him until he left. I told nobody about the new Santa, and he didn't catch on, despite desperate marketing efforts by retailers and Saturday morning cartoons. When Christmas came around again, I was waiting for him, with a shotgun. The same ridiculous Santa materialized, but this time all gaunt and pale and pleading for me to give him half a chance. I told him to leave. He drew up his luminescent gift box and started hauling a bunch of electronics from it. The sound of the 16 gauge in my little apartment was deafening. The anemic Santa disappeared barely in time to save himself. Neighbors came running.
Oh, man, we heard a gun. Is everything all right?
"Everything is fine," I said. "I was just playing Warzone." The next Christmas Eve, I was out until 3. The party had begun at a bar in the Loop, but somewhere along the way ended up at a fellow professor's home. I staggered back to my place with a student from my ancient literature class.
"Oh, someone's been a very bad boy this year,"
Santa said when my student and I tumbled inside.
"Very, very bad."
This year's version was an avuncular nod toward the original Santa. He sported a well-trimmed white beard, but instead of the red suit, he was clad in a flannel shirt, dungaree pants, and work boots.
"Who the fudge is that?"
My date slurred. "That's nobody," I sneered. And, just like that, Santa faded out of existence. After that night, I started feeling like I finally had the whole Christmas situation whipped. Okay, so one night a year I was visited by the latest incarnation of Santa. Big deal. I could cope with that. I could move on with my life. And I started doing pretty good. I cut down on the drinking and concentrated on my career. And more importantly, I stopped doubting my own sanity. Then Santa visited me again, but this time on a warm spring evening. The old, fat, diabetic Santa. I was grading papers in the living room when he just sort of plopped down from the ceiling. He collapsed in a heap, and it took him a minute or two to get up. "Well, how's retirement treating you?" I said. He limped over to my table, pulled out a chair, and lowered himself into it. Then, with a series of grunts and wheezes, crossed his legs European style and proceeded to unscrew a wooden boot from the stump of his leg. He plunked the damn thing down on my table. "I lost the foot," he sighed. "Other than that, things aren't too awful." "Well, that's nice. But I don't remember inviting you, and besides, it's nowheres near Christmas." He massaged the stump of his leg.
Yeah, I still feel the damn thing. My foot, that is.
Well, tell that to your doctor. Why are you here?
You got anything to drink?
Look, try the bars on Rush Street. I'm sure they can fix you up. Why are you here?
Well, I thought maybe we could work something out. Well, these other Santas, they're not doing so well. Nobody can really believe in them. Even little kids think they're ridiculous.
So,
I thought maybe I'd come out of retirement, make a comeback.
I stared at the wooden boot on my table.
Oh, yeah, the foot. Yeah, my disability. Yeah, I can overcome that. Millions of folks work with disabilities every day. But I can't do it without you.
Me.
Your belief, your faith in me. If your faith were to be restored, then you'd be an inspiration to others, and my powers would flourish again. It could be just like old times.
I'm a little old to go around believing in Santa, let alone acting as your spokesman. You need to find some little kid. Go ruin somebody else's life for a change.
Yeah, but that's just it. If you, a full-grown adult, can believe, then there's hope. This has to work.
Why, pray tell, does it have to work?
Because one way or another, the Santa myth will find a way to survive. It'll fight to live, just like any other organism. So let it be as me, a jolly old elf.
Ho, ho, ho!
Instead of
those ridiculous abominations?
Oh, they are too weak to survive. But the Santa energy itself is powerful. And now it's grown desperate.
Please, leave me alone.
No, you don't understand.
I don't care to understand. I just want my life back. It took some doing, but I threw the creepy old fuck out. It felt like a victory at the time, but looking back, I really should have listened. Variations of the Santa myth have been going strong for hundreds of years. It wasn't just some myth to be deconstructed by nerdy academics. It was a living energy. For a long time, it thrived by being lovable and benevolent, but that wasn't its only survival skill. Now it had taken a beating, but it wasn't defeated. No, not by a long shot. When Christmas came again, I was sipping a beer, but was mostly sober. I thought I was ready. Yeah, right. Nothing could have prepared me for the monstrosity that emerged from my living room wall. A horrid metal skeleton, clad in the blood-soaked traditional garments of its predecessor, the Santa that I'd come to know. Its eyes were twin black holes that absorbed the light from my room and the joy from my heart.
Santa knows if you've been bad.
This thing peered into me and beheld my every sin. It saw my spiteful thoughts and brought them broiling to the surface. Its maw opened to reveal long, serrated teeth. Its laughter was like the clash of saw blades. What is Santa but a thing that needs somebody to believe in it? It thrives on belief. I ignored and dismissed the other Santa Clauses, but this thing reached for me with its grotesque appendages, and I could not help but believe. I bolted, screaming, from my apartment, clad only in a bathrobe. It took 2 strong cops to bring me down. One of them kept asking what drugs was I on. I opened my mouth and outpoured my new Santa story about the nightmare that pushes through the walls, and there's no stopping it because it always sees you, and it knows that you've been bad. It knows that you're full of sin, and it's hungry. Oh, it's so hungry. Well, This insane new fable poured from me, and the cops had a good laugh over it. They threw me in the back of the squad car, and then I saw it. Just a glimpse in the rearview mirror, a flash of fear in their eyes. They believed. Oh, yes, they did. Even if only for a moment. A moment is all that it takes. I have to tell everybody, warn everybody, and I can't stop it. What I saw that night, it boils out of me. I open my mouth and give birth to a grotesque new god. No matter what time of year it is, Christmas is always coming. Relentless. Inevitable. Hungry.
You better watch out, you better not cry.
The horror.
Not loud, I'm telling you why.
The horror.
Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list and checking it twice. Gotta find out who's got your list.
Thank you for tuning in to tonight's episode of Fright Night Radio. If you enjoyed our story, please give us a thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe to our channel so you enjoy a frightful new tale every Friday night. Pleasant dreams.